Hello, welcome back to my channel if you're new here. Hi, my name is Melleny. If you'd like to get to know me a little bit better, all my social media links are always linked down below in the description bar, as well as all the books that I mentioned and anything else that I could also possibly mention is always in the description bar, so be sure to check that out if you're interested in any kind of way. This is the second time I'm filming my March wrap-up. The reason being that I hated the first one. I wasn't too impressed with myself, but I'm really excited to film and talk to you about all the books that I read in March. March was an incredible month. I managed to read 14 books, which was definitely more than I had in my March TBR, which I have linked up in the info cards for you to check out if you're interested. And I really think I had a really good spread of books during the month. My lowest rating was 3 stars, which is still pretty good for me. That just means the book was okay, it was good, it had its things. It wasn't the best book I'd ever read and stuff like that, but I still very much enjoyed it. I'll also have linked down below all the vlogs for the month of March, just because I think I explained my feelings about books really well in there, especially as I've been reading them, and it's a little bit more in depth as well. So I have that link down below if you want to have a look at what I thought about certain books and all of that, so be sure to check that out if that's what you're interested in seeing. I'm just using my Fairy Loot reading journal just to kind of help me out here, because it's been a minute since I've read a lot of these books, and it's just gonna tell me my ratings. The books I'm about to talk to you about are all in the order that I've read them, which I'm really excited that I was able to do that, because so you can actually kind of see how my reading month went. I was really impressed because one week in this month I read, like, it wasn't a proper Monday to Sunday week, but in a span of 7 days I read 7 books, which was something I haven't done in a long time, not since I was in high school. So it was a feeling of accomplishment for myself. But without further ado, I think let's go ahead and just jump into the books before I bore you even more. The first book that I read this month was Zenith by Sasha, Ellsberg and Lindsay Cummings. So this I listened to on audio. That I got the audio from Libby, which is my local library basically. And I gave this 3 stars. I wasn't the biggest fan of this. I had previously DNF'd this book. I think listening to it on audio is the best bet if you have struggled to read it previously and are still interested in reading it. In my vlog, which once again I'll have linked down below, I basically think that this book is very much a copy or an attempt to be a lot like the books that came out just before this, and it wasn't organic enough, and I said in my vlog that it was cheap versions of those books, and I stand by that point. I think that the authors could have done a lot more to make this book more unique and more true to themselves. There were a lot of moments which felt way too similar to other books and way too similar to other characters. And I then read Dark Dawn by Jay Kristoff. This is the 3rd book in the Nevernight Chronicles, which is one of my all-time favorite series. I'm slowly going to ink everything on me, but I really enjoyed this. It was a really great conclusion. I think that you might be disgruntled by the ending, but I think that overall, I think a lot of people will be satisfied by it. I gave this book 4.75. This is definitely not my favorite in the series. My favorite in the series continues to be God's Grave. Bless that beautiful book. But it was a really great conclusion, and I really do think that Jay Kristoff did right by us. Then to break up the feelings I had about Dark Dawn, I read 1 in a Million by Lindsay Cummings. This is a rom-com book, which I really enjoyed. It's definitely a more slow-paced rom-com, and not, you know, as steamy and raunchy as I probably would have preferred it to have been. But I still really found myself enjoying it. I was laughing. I loved the humor in this book. The friendships, the relationships overall were just really great, and I loved that a lot. If you're looking for a really easy breezy romance, this is one that I definitely recommend. I gave this book a full 4 stars. The next book that I read is Never Tell by Catherine Orton. I do have a review for this up on my blog if you're interested in seeing what I thought about it a little bit more in depth and more concise, but I really did enjoy this. I gave this book 3.75 stars. I think it's a really great middle grade. Amongst the middle grades I have been reading the past couple of months, this definitely was one of my favorites just because it pulled me in immediately. The writing style was so atmospheric. I loved it. It did kind of hang on in certain moments a little bit too long, but overall a really great book. This cover is absolutely gorgeous, and I'm so happy that I did read it. I then picked up Break the Fall by Jennifer Iokopeli. This book follows a really intense situation. Our main character Audrey is attempting to go to the Olympics and participate in the gymnastics. It's quite predominant in the story, but it's not really in detail, which I think a lot of people might appreciate. and we kind of follow Audrey and her team as they have to deal with not only competing in the Olympics, but also dealing with sexual assault charges, and Audrey has to come to terms with certain things. And it was a really great book. I gave it 3.75 stars. I thought it was really strong, and I did enjoy it. I was here for the romance between two characters, and I really did enjoy the team, the feeling of having a team and that kind of friendship that comes from that. I then, after years of putting this book off of my TBR, read The Loneliest Girl in the Universe by Lauren James. I really found myself enjoying this book a lot more than what I had expected to. I didn't really think the beginning was slow, but I just want to say that twist at the end surprised me. It wasn't something that I was guessing towards. I think that really shocked me, and I loved that element. It's definitely a sci-fi with a dark twist to it. I do think our main character sounds a little young, but obviously that can also be due to the fact that our main character hasn't had human contact in forever. So, you know, there's like that, it's like a double-edged sword there, because one minute she does sound super young, but it also makes sense in her circumstances. I gave The Loneliest Girl in the Universe 3.5 stars. It was a really great read. I think it's also a really great introduction into sci-fi if you're looking for something or looking to branching into the subject. It's really short, the pages go by quickly. It is mixed media, so if you're not a fan of mixed media, maybe steer clear of this one. I then reread one of my favorites last year, and that is Illuminated by Amy Kaufman and Jay. Once again, this amazing author duo is one of my favorites, and just rereading this was incredible. I mean, I sticky tabbed the shit out of this book and I loved it. I definitely loved it more this time around because, I don't know, you just pick up more things as you reread it, and I did enjoy this so very, very much. I think this is a great book to read after you read something like The Loneliest Girl in the Universe. I think they lead quite well into each other. Now, I don't think this is the best book to read because we do follow an outbreak of a virus, and I think it might be a little too close to home, even though it is set in space. One of my favorite things about this book is the relationships and kind of how you get so much out of the fact that this is just mixed media. I highly recommend reading this book along with the audiobook, because I think the audiobook, which has a full cast, each character in here that is predominant has its own voice actor, and I think that speaks for itself, the high production of the audiobook. And to read it with this, just because that way you can actually have the visuals with you, is really, really great and important, and I think it will really make the experience worthwhile. So this, I gave another full 5 stars to. If I could, I'd give it 1,000,000. I then decided to continue with my sci-fi field and decided to jump into Brightly Burning by Alexa Dunn. This is a Jane Eyre retelling in space. I enjoyed this a lot more than what I expected to. I gave it 4 stars. I really liked it. I do think that the writing in the beginning was quite an experience, something that I had to get used to, but I really did like how everything unfolded. The beginning, once again, was also very convenient. We had a lot of romantic interest in here, but it was an overall really great and entertaining read. Liked the way things unfolded and where we ended, and I think it's really great. If you like Jane Eyre, I'll definitely pick this up. Like I said, it's a Jane Eyre retelling in space, and who doesn't like a space retelling? They finally had the opportunity to pick up The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden, and this is something that I've been wanting to read for a very, very long time now, but I kept putting it off because it's really hyped, and it is a very slow book. I will say that it is a folklore fantasy kind of situation. We have Catherine Arden kind of retells a lot of, I believe, Russian folklore in this fantasy setting, and I liked it. I really do like this book. I gave it 4 stars just because I really did find the beginning to be really slow. Even like 100 pages in, the plot hasn't really happened yet, but the setup is so worth it. As I said in my vlog, I said the beginning justifies the ending, and I'm so excited to continue on with the series. This is probably not going to be the strongest one because of how much setup it takes, but I'm excited to jump into The Girl in the Tower as soon as I possibly can. I then kind of went haywire and decided to do other books on my TBR, although you could already see that in that stack. I decided to reread The Assassin Slate by Sarah J. Maas. I'm currently doing a buddy read with Sandra from Sands and Stories. I'll have her information linked down below, and in order to prep for that, I decided to reread the first 2 books. You'll see Throne of Glass in a little bit, and I read The Assassin's Blade, which is basically 5 prequel novellas, which you don't necessarily have to read, but the context they do provide is really, really great. I do have individual ratings, but the overall rating for this novella collection is 3.55 stars, using the average of all the other stories in here. I will say the beginning is quite slow, not my favorite short stories, but as we progress later on I really did enjoy the stories. I didn't think that this was as impactful as it was in the beginning when I originally read it. After putting this book off for as long as I possibly could, I finally picked up The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I think the best way to describe this book without giving too much away is the incredible first page. It's called The Anticipation. This describes the magic realism in this book so really well. The circus arrives without warning. No announcements preceded, no paper notices on the downtown posts and billboards, no mentions or advertisements in local newspapers. It is simply there, when yesterday it was not. The towering tents are striped in white and black, no golds and crimsons to be seen. No colour at all, save for the neighbouring trees and the grass of the surrounding fields. Black and white stripes on grey sky. Countless tents of varying shapes and sizes with elaborate wrought iron fence encasing them in a colourless world. Even what little ground is visible from the outside is black or white, painted or powdered or treated with some other circus trick, but it is not open for business. Not just yet. Within hours, everyone in town has heard about it. By afternoon, the news has spread several towns over. Word of mouth is a more effective method of advertisement than typeset words and exclamation points on paper pamphlets or posters. It is impressive and unusual news. The sudden appearance of a mysterious circus. People marvel at the staggering height of the tallest tents. They stare at the clock that sits just inside the gates that no one can properly describe, and the black sign painted in white letters that hangs upon the gates, the one that reads, opens at nightfall, closes at dawn. It's a really great reread. I gave it 4.75 stars. I don't want to say too much more than that because this is a book you kind of want to go in knowing as little as possible to kind of really experience it. Just know that it's magic realism. The last book that I managed to read this month was Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas. This is the first official book in the Throne of Glass series. We follow our main character Selena as she is leaving the mines and being awarded an opportunity for her freedom where she must fight to become the king's champion. And we kind of follow the events in here. There's a lot of foreshadowing, a lot of great moments, I definitely think. I mean, I stick a tab this as well, but this book really does a great job of setting up the world for us. We kind of see certain situations and understand the political climate of the world as well in this book. So I'm just really excited to continue on reading the rest of the series. I full 4 stars. It's definitely not the strongest book in the series in my opinion, but I think that should say enough. It's not the strongest, but it definitely keeps getting better and better. I mean, I'm currently halfway through with Crown of Midnight and all the feels are coming for me. Okay, you have, if you haven't picked up this series, this fantasy series, you should. It's definitely it's an easy YA fantasy series that you can get in and out of quite quickly, although you might not want to leave as quickly as what you would think. I'm definitely excited to finally finish the series off this year because it's been a long time coming. These are all of the books that I read this month. I'm so happy with how my reading went. A lot of chunkers in here, a lot of books that I didn't expect to like and then ended up loving, and books that I thought I would love not as much. But I'm really impressed. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please let me know down below in the comment section what you read this month, or if you've read any of these or would like to read any of these, and let's just have a great discussion about books. And I will see you in the next video.